Hey guys, welcome to another Freaks and Geeks Friday. Merlin is with me. My name is Dan. Hello.
Hello.
We have Chokin and Tokin. As we mentioned off air, it could have been called Chokin And Tokin with the geeks.
Yeah.
But of course, the Chokin is the geek story, so that would be two geek stories.
Although this one is more sci-fi than fantasy based, actually.
Actually, that is true. That's true, which we'll get to with some interesting references.
Yeah.
That you may have enjoyed.
I did enjoy some references
from this episode. All right, so this was the last episode aired on NBC before it was canceled.
Oh,
the day after this aired, it got canceled. So, and
interesting note to add.
Yes, and interesting that this is the only episode Busy Phillips does not appear in.
Oh,
so
no.
The absence of Busy means canceled.
Apparently, that's the sign.
No Kim Kelly means forget your show.
You know, it's weird. There was actually so much going on with this one.
You didn't even notice, right?
I didn't.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
It's the only one she's not in.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
But everybody else was here. No, not true. The dad was not here either.
Briefly.
Was he in it?
Yeah, at the beginning. He was like...
oh, you're right. You're right. And he walks in on her in the room.
Yeah, he goes like, oh, go babysit.
I'm
barely.
He's barely in it because I'm thinking so much about the mom.
Mom.
Because she's in it a bit more at the end with the hospital and everything. But we'll get to that. Okay, so Chokin and Tokin. Last episode aired. Did you think this show should be canceled after this episode?
No.
Was this is a horrible episode?
No.
I don't know if they got skittish because of the lead plot line or what.
I mean, I have a feeling it's one of those things based upon everything you told me. It was just kind of inevitable.
Yes, it was going to happen.
The ratings for this one, a lot of people probably just weren't watching it. And then very possibly combined with all the marijuana stuff. And
right.
Honestly, one of the characters almost dying.
One of the characters almost died.
Maybe that some parents were like,
prank.
this is too much.
Also... We talked about this last week because they went on like a hiatus for about a month and a half, and then they came back with last week's episode and this week's episode, and then done.
Mm-hmm.
And not only like canceled, we'll let you finish out the ones that we ran. Gone. Completely taken off the schedule. And as we've talked about probably at least a couple of times, the fans rose up and wrote the letters, and finally they agreed at NBC to air the last 3, I think, yes, in one night. It was a big Saturday night, 8 to 11, the Freaks and Geeks block, and so they aired the final 3 episodes. So that means there was still a couple missing. The one we'll watch next week and the one after, and maybe one more even, all never aired on NBC.
Wow.
They aired on Fox Family when they got the rights to air the reruns a year later or 9 months later or whatever. But... So they did air the last 3 episodes, but then what are the 2 episodes in the middle that we missed? We'll have to find out as we watch. But this really, the way this was scheduled, the way this was handled by NBC, it just, you're right, it was doomed to be canceled. There's no way any show, can survive this.
It's one of those strange things. I mean, just thinking about it's honestly a very good quality show, and maybe it just wasn't ready for it at the time.
Yeah, it's certainly I would say ahead of its time with its handling of the themes.
Yeah.
The style of humor,
even
possibly
the subject matter, even the way it's filmed. The quality of the acting is pretty great for teen drama.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is weird to me.
Very weird, very weird. But thankfully. It's become such a cult hit. And thankfully, Apatow and his company were not above paying premiums to the music people for the rights to all of the original songs again, which, really helps the show.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, a big part of it is the music. So, all right, so let's talk about the Chokin and the Tokin. To me, I would rather start with the Tokin, because I think the Chokin story is a lot more interesting.
Yeah, there's more going on there for sure. Tokin.
That would be my. Sometimes we go in the episode title order, but
no, I like to typically go. We like to end off on the big one. Like
and to me, I think the most interesting one is the Geeks.
Well, I'll start off with the thing is Tokin actually kind of has 2 plots. There's like a sort of a subplot.
Okay, a little bit, a little bit with
Cam.
Yeah. I was going to say with the the guidance counselor.
Which I kind of liked that. I kind of liked that because it
Yeah.
was Daniel is well, basically Nick has basically been smoking a lot, but he's running out of weed. So I guess from his dealer, and he's starting to kind of, I guess, act a little less enthusiastic about things, and Lindsay's sort of worried about him.
He's clearly spiraling out.
Well,
and it's more than just the breakup that we've been, looking at the last few weeks.
Yeah, and definitely we'll see more of that. And it actually gets into some interesting territory, which I wasn't entirely sure how to feel about. Maybe I'll ask you about. But basically, yeah, Daniel is basically been trying to actually, I guess, get his life together a little bit. I think there's a good line in here where he's
after that Mathletes episode, it really something lit a fire in him. Yeah,
which I like. His character's developing, and I never thought I would come around.
You hated him so much.
He was pretty bad early on.
Yeah.
But as we see, even in this episode, a lot of things are a facade, and people are more complicated.
Yes.
Got to look at that perspective.
Yes.
And he's talking to Ken, and the line I liked was, I want to be more sharp, and on this, Ken's like, you can't be sharp. I'm like, yeah, so I want to be sharp so I can be sharp. I like that line. That was cool.
Yeah.
So he's in the midst of like trying to get rid of the weed.
And of course, these are the guys from Pineapple Express. Everybody.
I know it's ironic. It's really weird nowadays. And of course, Ken's like, oh, well, give it to me. And they're in the midst of the exchange, and then the guidance counselor is like, oh,
why don't you give it to me?
To me, and then I'll see you in the office. Introduce him to a guy who's clearly a stoner, burnout dude. Like, this is your future, which is. Ironic because he's like a hippie, clearly knows him from back in the day.
He's a hippie, and, look, I think it's no secret that Mr. Rosso is a stoner himself. He's obviously a part of, and that's, one of the very, very true to life things of this episode. When we were kids, we didn't think about our teachers
in that way.
Really having lives at all outside of school.
Yeah.
But yet, We've seen him now,
with
the band at the bar, and we've seen him doing the anti-drug, assemblies and everything. But really, he's the biggest stoner in the school, I think.
Probably.
And that's echoed by Paul Feig and Judd Apatow in almost every commentary in an episode that he's in that has anything to do with drugs.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, we always figured that he went home and just lit one up as soon as he left the parking lot, the school. So
probably
so kind of confirmed there by the creators, but yeah, that's a minor a B or a C plot.
A B or a C plot, and I guess the B plot or the other side.
But it plays into the Tokin.
It does play into Tokin,
Nick,
which is Nick is basically having some issues, sort of. I guess now that he can't smoke as much, and he gets some back, and Lindsay's like, well, I guess I'll come hang out with you and smoke and see what it's about. She doesn't really do it, and she's just
never done it.
Never really done it, and doesn't really do it there. And it's just kind of being critical of him laying around, like, what are you doing? And he gets kind of angry at her, and then she takes a bunch of it and then smokes a bunch of it by herself, and then starts to kind of go through the motions.
Well, and of everybody in the Freaks, Nick and Daniel, I would say, really are the big stoners. Ken, we don't really know enough about his character.
No.
And Kim Kelly is more into the alcohol.
Yes.
We don't ever really see her partying in a stoner type way.
No. So, yeah, but it's always been implied Nick's the guy that smokes the most.
Yes.
He's pretty much always high.
Yep.
And they're kind of wondering why that is. And so Lindsay has to babysit, I guess, the neighbor's kid.
Yep.
She set it up with her parents, and
first they have a fight.
Yeah, they have a fight.
Nick and Lindsay, and he throws the weed at her and says, well, this is whatever.
You don't know anything about.
You don't know. Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know everything.
Really, she's trying to drop some
truth,
life lessons on. Yeah,
like
truth
maybe you
on
should.
it.
But now he's like, well, he's kind
it.
of bouncing back. Well, if you smoke it, you'll understand. And she doesn't really have that great of a time. Yeah, and it's not for her.
Yes.
And so I feel like her point is kind of proved from her position.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
She freaks out.
She does. She doesn't like it. And like I said, she has to go to the babysitting. And Millie actually comes to help sort of take care of her, bail her out.
Yes, she basically goes to Millie's house on her way over and says, oh my God, like.
Help me.
And Millie knows right away. She's like, oh, you're stoned. I can tell.
What's the band she went to? I went to this concert.
Oh my God, Seals and Crofts.
And I wanted to ask.
I laughed so hard at that line.
I figured
that's meaningless to you, I'm sure.
Because I was like, I figured Dan would get this joke because I'm guessing they're not like. I looked them up. They're like
they're like Air Supply. Like it's a 70s like.
Do people smoke at those?
No, I mean like they might. but it's just it's like James Taylor, like it's just such a funny.
Okay, it's not
person.
like Jefferson Airplane.
No, it's not like Jefferson Airplane or Jimi Hendrix or any of that like psychedelic type of rock.
That's why I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a joke.
It's basically like light AC, you know.
Like I got it, but I'm like had no impact on it.
Very funny.
Like I'd never heard of them before. I'm like, who are they?
Right.
But that was funny. But Millie is a good friend, and they
very good friend.
Have some interesting discussions. But
I love that she's, by the way, a recurring character.
Yeah, I'm glad they keep bringing her back.
Yeah, like they could have kind of written her off in the first episode as like, okay, well, this is Lindsay's old life. But really, she just keeps proving time and again that Lindsay really is caught between the two this entire show.
I liked that one exchange they had where she's like, why aren't we friends anymore? But it really is her that created that separation, not Millie.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's interesting. She's like, oh, we're friends, but not really friends. And Millie is actually afraid to lose her as a friend.
Right.
Still.
Was that in this episode?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember if that was in this one or the Mathletes episode.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess it's echoing that, but
right.
They kind of talk about that again.
And who was the kid that they babysat? Did you recognize him?
Should I have? He looks
maybe not, because I'm not sure if you watched the show. But he is the youngest son on Weeds.
Oh.
My show, of course, and trivia, does the voice of Nemo in Finding Nemo.
Really?
So this was about 3 years before that.
Wow. But did he ever do anything else?
After Weeds ended, he really hasn't. Not to my knowledge.
Well,
that was kind of his big thing was Nemo and Weeds.
So how old would he have been at Nemo? Like 7?
Yeah, I mean, let me think. So Weeds started in 2007 or 8, and he was 13 or so.
Okay.
So I would say in Nemo,
couldn't tell how old he was.
He probably would have been. He was probably 5 or 6 in this, and probably about 8 in Nemo.
Oh wow! Well,
yeah,
that's actually pretty talented.
I mean, I don't know how long ago before it was released he did the voice, but I think that was from 2003. So he probably did the voice about 2 years after this. So I would think.
Well, then you know what? Good on that kid, because that's a talented voice.
Very talented.
Wow,
yeah.
I did not think that kid was that old. Wow.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
That is a good bit of trivia.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically kind of how that sort of resolves. Is she's not really a huge fan of it by the end.
No, she hates it. She ends up looking up in
all the different
encyclopedia when they're babysitting, and yeah, she hates it.
Yeah,
but she doesn't. That's her storyline doesn't converge at all, really, with the geeks. I don't think. Right?
Well, the only thing I could think of about her storyline converging with the geeks, which is a little bit more of a stretch, is kind of about like fitting in, wanting to fit in.
Yeah, I mean, look, thematically, I think they're always diverging.
But in terms of like plot wise,
yeah, like I feel like
they're not connected.
Yeah,
like I was thinking about that. Like when she gets home and says, "I'm never gonna babysit again," like her mom like tucks her in and says goodnight. She had no idea about anything with Bill.
No idea. Yeah, that mom had a tough day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, usually we at least see some sort of convergence of the stories.
Like the
even
dinner
if
table.
It's one scene. We don't get that here at all.
Which is
which I didn't care for.
No,
I don't like when they don't converge at all.
Yeah, that's strange. But I guess I'm just thinking there wasn't really much opportunity to the way they wrote the one story. I guess unless I don't know, they could have had somebody interact.
And that could be faulty writing.
Not the most.
This is the only episode that Judd Apatow wrote and is credited by himself. So he co-wrote a few of them. He's certainly directed a lot of them, but this is the only one he's credited with writing all by himself.
Well, generally,
and he admits on the commentary that he really worked with like 4 guys, but
he got the main.
But he is the only person credited for writing this episode, and to me, I like ones that converge a little bit more with the stories.
I do like it when they converge a little more, especially. Well, here's the problem.
Tell me.
Here's the problem, which isn't, I think, a huge problem for the episode, but a lot of times things converge when it's with the family, right? They're the center.
Yes.
Lindsay and
True.
Sam. And Sam, he's a big part, obviously, of the Chokin storyline, but that's Bill's story primarily. It's a Bill-centric episode.
That's true. Although, much like Sam's father and the cheating last week, I mean, one geek's story really is the collective's story.
Sure.
Yes, it's this one specifically about Bill, but everybody obviously is there, and he could have easily gone home and said to Lindsay, like, "Oh, Bill almost died today." Da 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 da.
I'll tell you what, a good opportunity would have been her once again not being able to be there for her brother because she was doing this, and her mom tells her, and then she could have really hit her towards the end of the episode or something. That would have been enough.
You could have had that.
That would have been enough.
You could have had it.
Yep. That would have been enough. And then, like, you could even mention it, like, "Oh yeah, Bill almost died." Fade to black with the, when she's laying there. Fine.
That would have been fine.
That would have been fine. So you're right. It's weird there wasn't even a line.
So, yes, I would have liked something with it. But okay, so let's talk about the Chokin story.
Okay. Well, I really liked the Chokin.
I was going to say my favorite of the episode by far.
Definitely. I actually really liked it. Well, basically, this episode...
Really, all of our favorites are in this, except for the wise sage.
Sage is not in this.
Sage is not in it. But
Gordon is in it.
Bully's in it. My buddy Gordon's in it. And Leslie Mann is in it.
Leslie Mann is in it.
Who we've not seen before.
Which
but of course,
made me happy. It was like Apatow's wife. So I'm like, oh. So yeah, but
Classic.
basically this part is essentially about the friendship of the geeks possibly being torn apart because Sam... Oh, and the girl they came back.
Yes, the girl from
that one episode.
She moved. New girl moved in, and then we also see
the one
Joanna Switcher, Garcia,
the cheerleader,
head cheerleader.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like when she's in.
So they came back. But yeah, basically this is about Sam and Neil kind of wanting to not be perceived as geeky, so they want to try to kind of distance themselves a bit from Bill and the way he acts, being weird and just kind of saying things on the fly that are random and being the way he is. So which you know what?
Listen, I went through a phase with that where I was not the Bill of the group.
Okay.
I was the Neil probably or the Sam.
Okay.
I definitely had my moments, but like there were times when I was embarrassed of
a friend or something.
My friends sometimes being too
nerdy or
nerdy, geeky, out there. Yeah.
Well, I guess,
and I'm not proud of that, but I was 14, 15, whatever, and
everybody has
those moments.
Everybody has those moments.
So I really related to that, even though looking at it now, I'm like, oh, you D-bags,
Well, look, everybody wants to fit in, especially in high school, and so sometimes you might find yourself distancing yourself from your friends.
Right.
And when you try to get in front of the group, and I think that, like, he, for instance, wants to go to the sci-fi convention, which is kind of a running, thread throughout this, and they want to go, is it Sydney is still there?
Cindy's mentioned, but she's not in the episode, but they talk about her.
Like going to the cheerleading thing and they're invited.
I'd rather do that.
And so, which sounds kind of cool, I guess, for a teenage kid.
Well, and right at the beginning of the episode, the two gals, the cheerleader and,
they bump into
and the
them.
new girl, they bump into them, and they're immediately embarrassed by Bill. And the head cheerleader's like, okay, let's go. Really writing them
Neil's
off.
Really is just rolling with it, but I mean,
wait.
Like I would just, she just seemed like, oh yeah, like whatever, watch where you're going. Like there was no interest indicated whatsoever.
And he was just like, oh, I will watch where I'm going.
Oh, don't you worry. And I like he complimented her binder, like, ooh, special X12 or whatever it is. I got one of those. That was hilarious.
That was good.
But there's basically the separation because, all right, well, in class, I guess it's social studies or something. Leslie Mann's the teacher.
Love it.
Very sweet teacher. Loved her.
Number one.
Great. I was wondering.
Of the teachers we've seen so far.
She's pretty great.
Now, you can't count Mr. Rosso, of course. He's a guidance counselor.
He's an admin authority.
And, Coach Biff.
Coach is pretty good, actually.
Is pretty good. He definitely has his moments, but he's also not really a teacher.
Math teacher's not really your favorite. But he's a little better than you thought. He's okay.
I don't care for math teacher too much.
Math teacher's not super terrible. He's not the best, though.
He's not the best. We've seen better. And then the English teacher that we saw in that one episode was just bland.
He just shut people down.
Yeah, shut people down. Not too much there.
I think
but Leslie Mann is
great history
number
teacher.
One, of course.
Yeah, she was great. She's very sweet, and basically this comes up as I guess she's just trying to relate to her students. Bill talks about his peanut allergy and how he could almost die if he ate one, and people were kind of laughing about that. He kind of I guess awkwardly mentions that I guess Neil has like a lizard skin, like a rash, and that Sam faints in blood, and that's kind of what caused the embarrassment.
Yes.
But
they don't care for that.
Leslie Mann wanted to actually find out more about it and was like going on for a while.
Yeah, she
about
really
it.
was not trying to
teach her a lesson.
Well, she wasn't trying to embarrass Bill. She was trying to, be nice.
And the class the next day, talking about George Washington Carver, the peanut farmer, which means that responsible for that, and also being Bill's worst enemy.
Right.
Whole class laughs and inadvertently, like she was trying to kind of be playful and
I don't think it was mean spirited at all.
But of course, all the kids laughed, and Bill did not appreciate that. And he actually tells her, I didn't like that you made fun of me. He directs it at her.
He did,
even though
but look,
which isn't what he means. But
I think though we can all see that she is a very young teacher,
probably
very green. I would say first or second year of teaching.
Probably.
And I think in her attempt to inject a little humor, but not too. She wasn't making fun of Bill.
Well, she tells the bully to relax. And
to back off.
Yeah, so she's aware of that.
Oh wait, I'll tell you the other teacher I liked.
I'm trying to remember.
She's only in one scene. The episode where Sam gets the leisure suit and comes in, and they call him a homo, and she's like, "Well, then we're all homos, whatever." That was good.
The other
I liked
English
her.
teacher.
I liked her.
Well, then we're all homosexuals. Wait, no, that's not what I meant.
She's good.
That was good. That one scene.
Yeah.
But basically. Yeah, this kind of follows him,
well, the bullies don't believe that it's real. They think he's
the bullies
trying to get
he just says weird things. He's a weirdo.
Yeah.
He's not really allergic to peanuts.
Right.
And basically, Sam says he doesn't want to go to the sci-fi convention. Says, hey, you can go with Gordo. Now, there's an interesting thing about this. Bill is not super happy about this because he wants to go with his friends.
Right.
So it's not going to be the same.
Yes. He doesn't really see Gordon as
one of
them.
Friends.
Right.
Which is a shame, by the way, because he's such a great character.
He's such a great character, and I think Sam actually does
see him
as part of the group, but Bill does not. Bill, the three, and none shall permeate. Girls, Gordon, nobody.
They got that
right?
crutch there. It's the social hierarchy they have, and you got to be inducted,
right?
And all the friends have. It kind of carries over
into
adult life a bit, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
It's kind of silly, but no, very true. And but while he's going over to talk to Gordon, I believe that's who he was talking to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he goes over
about the sci-fi.
Like, I guess you can come with me.
Yeah.
And the bully puts peanuts in his jelly sandwich. I guess it was just jelly. And he actually starts to have an allergic reaction and chokes and can't breathe. Goes to the hospital, and whoa, like
big deal.
Actually, almost killed
Leslie Mann
Bill.
Following the gurney out.
Gurney got out to the hospital.
Classic. We meet Bill's mom.
Who do you recognize her?
No. I mean, yes, I do, but I didn't look her up.
Okay, well,
who is she? Tell me.
Well,
now you can drop knowledge on me.
Well, I'll admit I didn't watch
Star Trek or something.
Very, very close.
Babylon 5.
Yes, she was a regular.
I knew it.
She was a regular on Babylon 5.
Because you started to say you didn't really watch it that much, which means it couldn't
be
be Stargate. It can't be Battlestar.
I gotta catch
it. Can't be Trek.
I do have to watch.
I knew that meant Babylon 5.
So I do need to watch more Babylon, but I know that she was one of the characters on it. And she also...
So I certainly did not recognize her from that.
She was also in a movie that I made you watch for our podcast.
Is that right?
One of my guilty pleasures.
That Mortal Kombat movie?
No. Maybe not as bad. I actually think it was a little better than
the one where it was all dark and you couldn't see anything? What the heck movie was that?
The Relic?
The Relic?
The Relic was pretty...
Is she in that?
Pretty well... No.
Okay.
Steven Seagal's last theatrical feature,
Half
Dead.
The
she
one
was
with that rapper.
With Ja Rule's dummy, the best actor.
That was such a bad movie.
She was the cop in that one.
Okay.
So you've seen her in at least one. But
listen, if I looked up her wiki or her IMDb, I guarantee I've seen her in something other than that. But,
you have, but now I've seen her in something else, and she does a fine job as the mom.
What's one of these people where it's like I've seen these episodes so many times, I start to wonder okay, do I only know her from this role?
Probably not.
I'm sure I've seen her in other things.
But that she's the Babylon 5 lady.
Okay,
That's probably I think she's best known for.
Okay.
Actually. No.
But we finally meet Bill's mom. We learned last week Bill's dad is not in the picture.
So they're divorced, and we learned basically, Lindsay's mom and her have a heart-to-heart because she's there, kind of being supportive. And, and she says, supportive. Maybe, he's more sensitive because I was doing drugs and drinking. Like, so she...
Right. She puts it on herself.
Mom had a rough upbringing, and the mom's like, back then we didn't know as much about nutrition, so, I dropped Sam as a kid. Which, by the way...
Hairline fracture. Tell me.
Do you think that's true?
I do, and I'll tell you why.
Because
I'll tell you exactly why that's true.
I do think it's probably true.
You think she was trying to make her feel better?
Here's the thing. I want to give this show props for all the realism, and it's good, but the mom is obviously isn't perfect, but is such a caring, nurturing, overprotective person.
You could see
that she could just say that happen. I could see her wanting to say something that to help her this other person feel better, but I didn't know if I wasn't sure if I believed it.
Okay, so when I was 2 months old, my mother was carrying me in her arms, I guess, or whatever, and literally fell down the steps and thought that she murdered me. She thought she crushed me.
What?
Yeah, and here I am today. So yeah, I mean, I completely believe that happened.
Okay.
And
accidents do happen, and you know that.
Well, and for Bill's mom's sake, I probably haven't told that story, by the way, in 20 years to anybody.
Here it is now, people. Wow.
Here it is. Wow. Freaks and Geeks brings things out of us.
Well,
we don't
because it goes to
it's very deep.
Well, and it is, and it goes back to childhood. And
it goes to things
honestly, it's impossible to talk about all this stuff without bringing up some things.
Yes, and that's why the show's so great, because everybody will relate to
something,
different things in it, But the other thing is, I believe Bill's mom as well, because of course,
I believe it.
Back in the 60s and 70s, they didn't. I mean, my mom used to drink beer, when she was pregnant with my older brother.
It's true. We're always learning more about what to do. Like back in the 50s, 60s, you could smoke all the time. It's healthy for you, right? Clear out your lungs.
Right. Back in the 50s, right, you heard 4 out of 5 pregnant women prefer, Newports. And it's like, okay.
Well,
yes.
Knowledge is power.
So of course, I believe that all of that happened.
Well, and I like I said,
God bless that mom for really worrying that, oh my God, I caused this peanut allergy, because back then nobody knew what, there's no internet.
It's possible, but it's like I said, it could also just be genetics. I also
yes, well, that's what I mean. I think it's genetics. I think it's nothing to do with what she did.
But she's blaming herself, and she's being, I guess, a good parent. She's caring. She's probably putting too much of it on herself. And
you figure single mom too,
and
the dad's not around.
Yeah, and the divorce thing. I have to say, I thought it was interesting, because maybe it could be some insight into why Bill is the way he is, so it's the awkward, kind of withdrawn. And also, the mom wasn't what I expected. I was expecting something. I was expecting something of a different. I wasn't expecting someone who would have partied as much, and I thought that tied into the themes of the Tokin.
Yeah,
a little bit.
That's true.
So I thought that was a bit of a connection.
That's true.
If you want to talk about it.
All right.
It's more thematic.
I would say it's very thematic above all.
I don't think they're totally separate.
Right.
It's just,
maybe not. But
you're right. Lindsay should have been at the hospital. Or something.
Yes. They didn't quite dovetail as much as most of them do.
No. So. But we haven't even gotten to the good stuff. The meat. The
meat really is
the bully.
I was going to say, one of your favorite things ever is when
OC
from the OC, straight from the pages of the OC, which is aired a year before the OC, but is when a bully shows
complexity,
some maybe change of heart, some development. You love it.
Well, this is the thing,
and this is one of the best ones I think out there.
It's a trope of all teen movies and shows. You've always got to have the bully, right. Which Karate Kid, the sequel has kind of built upon this new
Cobra Kai makes it
Cobra Kai. That the bully has a story too.
Right.
And I do like that, because I don't know, is that I guess that's a relatively new concept, by standard. Because I know this is 20 years ago, but when did that start becoming?
All right, let's think about more classic bullies.
Because if we go to classic bullies like Biff. Mm-hmm. I guess Biff is complexed by the second movie, but the first movie he's kind of just straight evil. for the purpose of the movie.
Okay, well wait. Here's a good example from about 10 years before Freaks and Geeks. Well, the character was introduced 10 years, but we probably didn't get the backstory till later. But Nelson on Simpsons.
Oh,
that is there's a couple of really great episodes of The Simpsons.
Of course.
That kind of cover his trajectory to why he's a bully today.
You know, I don't even really think of Nelson as a bully.
Not anymore.
It's kind of weird.
Not anymore. But when the show first started, he was very much the bully.
But you're right.
I mean, the villains of that show early on were Nelson and Mr. Burns. And we still kind of think of Mr. Burns now as the bully.
More so,
yeah. But yeah, Nelson, I don't think of him as a bully anymore. They've completely redeemed that character over the years.
Yeah, they really have.
So that's a good early one.
That's a good early one. But I guess that's not that. I think for a long time that wouldn't have been canon with a show like that because you get kind of resets every episode.
I'm trying to really think of
more like in a live action. Less satirical.
Let's see.
Anything else? I know there aren't that many that
okay, out. Wait. Here's one. I always go back to it. Okay. Number one movie. Okay, The Wizard of Oz. Now listen.
Oh man.
Wicked Witch of the West.
She's more than a bully.
Well, okay, that's fine. But she's the villain though. But I'm talking about a villain's arc.
Okay.
Something we don't see in the early Disney movies we've done. We talked about what? The
Snow White
and Cinderella and
all the women are evil.
All the women are
sisters
evil.
Are evil,
movies,
yeah.
Right, but we don't necessarily
see their side.
We don't see their side ever. They tried to do it with Maleficent 50 years later, whatever. Your favorite.
No.
But the Wicked Witch, very layered. We don't get to see it until
Wicked.
50 years later with Wicked. But I posted this interview that Mr. Rogers did with Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch, just last week on my Facebook because I love posting it.
Sure.
And that probably was recorded in the 70s. And she talks about, to Mr. Rogers, how when you really think about it, this is a woman who, has never gotten anything she's ever wanted in life. And this woman, came upon her world and
wrecked it.
She didn't say killed her sister on Mr. Rogers, but yeah, she said,
she killed my sister, threatened my authority, but he loves her. What? Who's this? Comes out of nowhere.
So there you go. Now it wasn't redeemed in the movie. It was redeemed 60 years later with Wicked, but
very similar to Snow White, actually.
Yes.
Threatened by a pure-hearted person for no reason, jealousy.
It's true.
All right. Well, okay, you're right.
But Wizard of Oz, she does kill her sister, though, to be fair.
Now we're just talking about retroactively, like looking at antagonists. I'm talking about
you're saying in the moment.
I know what you're saying. Complex villains are certainly out there, but like redeemable. But I mean, I'm thinking, like a Nelson.
Nelson's the best TV example I can think.
That's actually, I'm fine with that. But I was wondering if you could think of any like shows more akin to Freaks and Geeks that would do something like that.
Not really. I mean, like my favorite go-to with Freaks and Geeks is Wonder Years, of course. Wonder Years, really, the bully was kind of his older brother.
Oh.
And he was just a bully because he was a middle kid and, whatever.
I guess Home Alone, those bullies, the siblings kind of come around. Like, they actually don't hate him. And that's not the...
Buzz is literally one of the worst movie bullies of all time. Okay? I hate Buzz. Horrible person. Now, I do like when he pulls out the picture of the girlfriend, and says "woof."
Okay,
that's good. But I hate Buzz.
All right. Well, look. The point is, Freaks and Geeks.
I don't know. I really don't know.
They're one of the standouts.
One of the standouts. Well, Uncle Buck has a good. No, that was 10 years before Freaks and Geeks. Okay. Uncle Buck, to name another John Hughes and John Candy team up. The eldest daughter in that is a real hard ass on Uncle Buck. And we kind of see why throughout, the movie where she feels neglected by the parents and da-da-da-da-da. And then they end up, really
all right.
becoming friends.
You know what's interesting about this is your examples, they're fine, but they're still family members. So it's like...
I guess that's true.
That's interesting.
Nelson's the best I have.
Okay, that's fine. Nelson's fine. All right, well, this bully character, all right, he
turns it around.
His dad actually brings him to the hospital.
Yep.
But, all right, by the way, all right.
Tell me.
He basically has to, apologize to the mom, then apologize to Bill when he's conscious.
Right.
But do you think, that he got off light.
Well,
I guess he didn't know.
We certainly don't know what happened to him after.
Yes, we do.
The episode.
Well, I guess we don't know exactly.
We don't know. He could have gotten in trouble with school. I mean,
suspension or something.
This was a much different time where you could bully anybody. Bullying was the name of the game in the 80s. Are you kidding me?
I've heard that. I have heard that.
So, no, I mean, truthfully, yes. Compared to what would happen now,
he probably
absolutely he would have gotten off easy. But, yeah, I mean, he might have gotten in trouble. He might have gotten some detention. But, I mean, he probably didn't get suspended or anything.
Well, here's another interesting
Well, we don't know.
You're right. There's another interesting thing here, too. Kind of like with Bill's mom. It's playing with expectations a bit. And his dad was not what I expected. Like, he wasn't, like, at least overtly drunk or abusive, irresponsible. He was just kind of like, hey, what are you doing?
Right.
Like the kid's acting out for some reason that... He actually seemed like he wasn't yelling at the kid. He was actually
like Nick's father yells at him.
Yeah,
we've seen that, and that's pretty obvious.
He was actually pretty calm and composed. It just wasn't. It's not the traditional route you'd expect.
No, it's not. And I also think he was probably very, very embarrassed that his son is such a jerk.
Yes, but it's not like you normally be like, what are you doing, dummy? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that's the more traditional.
We don't know what we saw at the house.
We don't. But I'm just saying, even based on what we saw, it's not the assumption, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That's interesting.
Now, that part's good writing.
Yes, it's subtle. I was like, so the dad's
that part is good writing from Apatow.
So we can't assume what the problem is. Maybe it's not with what the dad certainly.
And then we learn.
We learn the big twist of the episode. When he's going in there talking to
One of the all-time Freaks and Geeks twists.
I'll be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that I've been watching this show for a while and I've seen how well written it was, I never thought they were going to do anything with this character. I thought he was just...
Right.
He was... In the first episode... Okay,
they don't leave any character unturned.
Danny was pretty annoying, but actually in the first episode, he basically tries to beat them up, kill them. He...
Couple of different times.
Couple of times. He goes after these kids...
Yeah.
So established as basically one of the antagonists of the show for sure.
Yeah.
And he actually is talking to Bill when he is asleep or thinks he's asleep.
In his coma.
He's like,
unquote.
I'm sorry, I didn't, mean, for this to happen. But the truth is, I actually wanted to be friends with you guys years ago.
Yeah.
I like sci-fi. I like
How about when he said, I like sci-fi and comic books?
I like sci-fi and comic books, but you guys never wanted to...
Yeah, I wanted to hang out with you, and you guys shut me down, and you guys...
Because they probably didn't think he was geeky enough or whatever back when they were younger kids, and he held on
and
to
this
that.
really stuck with him.
And so he's like, well...
Boy, doesn't that happen in real life.
Probably a lot.
All the time.
They're probably... And I'm just thinking back, that probably...
And things that people don't even think about,
impact you,
years later, years after the fact.
And the funny thing is, a lot of times, because we're kids, we don't even realize what we're doing, what we say, some little thing.
Yeah.
We'll have no idea. So, and when you're so young to really even consider what you're thinking, you just think it's this person hates you.
Wait, what the heck show was I just watching? Oh, I forget.
Freaks and Geeks?
I don't think... No, I did watch that. I don't think it was The Connors last night, but it was some show I just watched recently, within the last few days, where somebody was saying about... Oh, it's this show on Netflix. Okay, it's called Dash and Lily, and I just watched the whole thing. I binged it for my TV reviews. And there is a storyline where this girl, Lily, was sort of being tormented by this kid in grade school and da-da-da-da-da. And, she confronts him at the, towards the end of the movie, and she's like, hey, I can't believe you're trying to hang out with me. You treated me like garbage, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I was just a girl. I was 14. And he was like, yeah, I was 14 too.
Yeah. I don't know what I said.
Yeah, he was like, I don't even really remember that. I don't know how that made you feel. I have no idea. I didn't even know that. But I was just a kid too.
That reminds me
And that's really true.
That is true. And it reminds me, what's that one Greta Gerwig movie you watched where that person in the bar encounters her, you were so mean to me in high school. And
yes. Was that Frances or was that
I think it was Frances.
Mistress America?
It's the one where she goes across to go to New York or LA or what was it? Is that Frances?
I think that's Frances.
I think it was Frances Haunch, and she's like, what's your problem? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So people hold on to these things.
Hold on. Well, okay, another personal story. This is the day for it. Okay. So
man, okay, I'll have to try and match it. I guess.
Oh man.
What?
So
the heck?
Okay, so
I'm ready.
people on my channel know this, of course. You know this. I'm gay. So a couple of years after high school, there was this guy who was clearly gay and in the closet and whatever.
Okay.
And he was sort of trash talking gay people, whatever, in this like email thread. This was like in the mid-90s, so we had big email threads was the hot ticket because we didn't do texting or whatever. So,
Nice.
and I like eviscerated him on this email thread, like, oh, you know, who are you kidding? Da 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 da, this and that, you know, and so I felt bad about that for literally. I mean, it happened 23 years ago. So like 2 years ago,
You felt bad.
I did, and so a couple years ago, I got in touch with him on Facebook. I said, listen. You know, I don't know how to tell you this. Like, this sounds horrible, but I want to apologize to you. I have carried this with me. I feel so bad. Da 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 da. He didn't even remember it, but I carried it with me. That I was the jerk.
You know,
Isn't that weird?
honestly,
And I bet that happens all the time.
I'm pretty
You
sure
know?
I have felt bad for some things I may have said or didn't say or something back in school, and a lot of people might not even remember.
Yeah.
Because I'm the kind of person,
Yeah,
I hold it for a long time.
He felt bad that I had held on to that so long. He's like, honestly, I don't even remember that happening.
Did he ever
But
come around?
You know, it's unclear. I would say from his Facebook page, yes, but
Hard to say.
we're not friends on Facebook, so I don't have all the access. But I would say yes.
Well, okay.
I would say finally.
That's funny.
came
I
out,
was like, I'm sorry you held on.
But yeah, he was just like, I'm sorry that you felt that way because it was like meaningless to me. I don't even remember it.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, but anyway, so this dude held on for years about Bill and his friends kind of rejecting him.
But
And we see maybe that's why he
acts the way he does.
acts the way he does.
Which is interesting. And then he does come back later when Bill's awake
Yeah.
and to apologize. Bill's like, well, hey, I heard you. You actually like us. You think we're cool. I know, I know.
He denied it.
It's like, hey, well, we're going to go to the sci-fi convention. Like,
To meet?
You can meet. You can come with us if you
No,
want.
but who are they going to meet there?
George Takei.
Yep.
By the way, they mispronounced his name.
Well, here's
which was
here's the
apparently
thing.
common back
In the 80s, everyone thought it was Takei.
And I think I did too.
What's
I did
great
too.
about Freaks and Geeks is, again, getting the era right.
I think I did.
In the 80s, we all thought it was Takei.
Honestly, until he did the one roast where he's like, it's Takei, like toupee.
Yeah.
Shatner.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly didn't know.
Most people
I
thought it was Takei.
for a long time.
So
That's
great
probably
writing again.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved the fact. That little detail did make me happy because this would have been at the time where Star Trek was starting to get really big again.
yeah, the movie, I guess it would have just
First
come
one.
out
It's
a
a motion
year or
picture.
two ago, right?
And I'm just thinking, wow, George Takei, like it's cool that he's at the convention. He's the
Which
big
is
name,
believable.
and they're excited.
Completely believable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's really cool.
Yep.
I'm glad. All right, it's a weird question.
Tell me.
You probably actually know more about this than I do.
Okay.
Like I mean, obviously I like the original Star Trek a lot. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. But was George Takei a big fixture before he became like this big proponent of homosexuality and stuff?
Well, he was to the point that back in this era, they didn't have a lot of real famous sci-fi people to draw from. I mean, nowadays,
You got a bunch.
or in the last 25 years, you've got Next Gen, you've got Deep Space Nine, and a lot of people, look, Patrick Stewart isn't coming out to these conventions, but you've got,
Sometimes he does.
on occasion if they're big. But, you've got a host of other people,
You got many serious big casts.
yeah,
It's not like, but he's like, that one guy.
Whoopi Goldberg loves to go,
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, you had Star Trek, Star Wars, but those people weren't really doing conventions. Battlestar Galactica, maybe Buck Rogers had aired by then.
Maybe like
but
Lost in Space people.
yeah, probably probably
stuff
Bill
like that.
probably Bill Mooney from Lost in Space and
Yeah.
Other people like that. But yeah, I mean, I would say,
It's pretty close.
pretty close.
Well, it's the booming.
Takei was big, but yes, I mean once Next Gen happened and sort of the originals became not forgotten, but like other than Kirk and Spock, everybody else was sort of a little bit diminished in the shadow of the current Patrick
Stuff that was
Stewart,
on, yeah.
Brent Spiner,
Jonathan
Geordie
Frakes,
LaForge,
yeah.
right? So, yeah, I mean, I think it's believable that they would be excited for Takei.
Okay,
but
I just remember like
was he huge?
like
Not really.
okay, like
I'll tell you
alright,
actually what helped him become huge.
Howard Stern.
Howard Stern.
Because I was gonna say like
I think
he was a big fan of the show and was always on Howard Stern.
Huge fan, and one of the first big shows they did was probably in the early '90s. I would say that's what propelled him to the pop culture status.
Because like he's gone beyond Star Trek now.
Absolutely.
He's like a big fixture.
And I think Stern.
Okay, I guess so. All right, well,
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of cool. There was that point there. I like their costumes. Gordon's excited
their costumes.
to not get dressed up until they get
Gordon
there, though.
gets dressed up in the parking lot so he doesn't feel
Look
like a
like-
fool the whole way. And there you have Neil in his whole Yoda
His outfit. And Sam is like Luke Skywalker. And
Yep, classic.
Bill is Tom
Yeah.
Baker.
Mr. Who. Doctor Who. Mr. Who. Now, Tom Baker, of course, is my favorite Doctor. Everyone knows that. But that's because that's what I grew up on with my dad.
In all honesty, based upon what I've seen, he is probably one of my favorites.
And he's still the longest lasting, right?
Yes, I think David Tennant was pretty close.
Okay.
My favorite is actually Christopher Eccleston. But,
okay.
But from the
People
beginning,
don't care for him, though. Right?
People do, but he
Okay.
gets overshadowed because he only did one season. Creative differences.
Okay, creative differences.
But Baker, I think, still has the longest stretch, like 11 seasons or something.
I mean, it was long.
Nothing
It was
like that.
my whole childhood, yeah.
But yeah, but I liked Bill's outfit.
Is that why you decided to wear the the robe today?
Honestly, I
honor of Bill's Doctor Who character.
Somebody brought it out, and I just felt like wearing it. And
Yeah,
then I
why not?
realized as I had it on, oh well, actually, Bill was wearing it. So actually,
It kinda fits.
it is kind of thematic.
Yeah.
But
all right.
Also,
So
before we finish up,
yes,
we are going to be doing a Charlie's Angels video in the near future.
Yes.
And this episode actually references them.
yes,
How about
that's
that?
right.
How about that?
Yes. Oh, and the dad was in that scene too, of course.
See, I was about to say he was.
You're right. He was in a couple of scenes.
Don't you love this show? I love Boz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Boz.
They were talking about
and he talks about, and that's where it converges, relationships. Because Lindsay tries
because
to do
she
it
says, "Well,
she's
how
for
about
Nick.
me?"
Yeah, how about me? Whereas Sam's like trying to get with girls. It's not the big focus, but there is what they do kind of connects to getting.
They do
with
have a nice
relationships.
scene together. You know why I wasn't thinking of it probably because it wasn't
right at the
around the
beginning.
table. Well, and it was right at the beginning, and it wasn't around the dinner table. They were on the couch.
But you like that Sam likes Bosley because he's funny and
Yes.
doesn't care about the girls.
And you know what? Listen, so believable.
It's adorable.
Because
Not me.
Bosley is funny.
Bosley is probably my
Bosley's
favorite
funny.
part.
You're right. The convergence of the Charlie's Angels.
See, Charlie's
You're
Angels
right.
brings the plot together a little
As
bit.
always.
Ah.
And I love that I love their old TV.
I love it.
How they're
I thought
watching
you'd
it
love
like it's static. And
I thought you'd love how they have to go through the different channels. Try to.
Love
No, say.
that.
Oh, that was pretty cool.
that was me. I used to have to do all that.
Which, to be fair, so did I when
I
I
was
was
the
young.
TV guy in my house. I would always turn the channels and.
Did they? You know what? I do like their old TV, but I don't remember. Did they show the antenna clearly? I don't remember seeing the antenna because it's kind of a low shot.
I don't know, but
What would have been
like
up
the
on the
it
roof?
would have been the rabbit
Would have
ears,
been rabbit
probably.
ears?
Yeah, well, it's up on the roof, but it has to be connected. Like it has to beam to the rabbit ears.
Okay.
It doesn't get beamed to the TV itself. So yeah, I mean the show is so dark. It's sometimes hard to see that stuff. But yeah, I imagine they had rabbit
But
ears.
cool detail. But also,
Yep.
here's the thing. All right. Okay. Well, I guess there could be a little bit of discussion.
Okay.
Thought it was gonna be a short one, didn't you? Never say it.
I didn't
thought
say
so.
it actually.
Okay. I
'Cause
didn't.
I'm always proven wrong.
But all right.
Are you going to talk about the bully at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing is the bully does approach them on his bike
Yep.
and decides he can't do it.
He's in the bushes,
Looking at
kind
them,
of peering out.
and he's
yeah,
like
a creep.
can't do it, and he
Yeah.
turns around, goes away.
And he says that he shakes his
I
head.
just can't do it,
He's like, I just can't do it.
and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn.
What did you think of that ending?
I thought it was a very Freaks and Geeks ending.
Okay.
It was a little unsatisfying in the traditional sense because I
Okay.
would have liked for the full arc to come around, but it felt very realistic.
So realistic. I think it would have been unrealistic if he decided to join
That
them
would have
and
been cheesy.
he's now part of the crew.
We're all buddies now. It's
And you
resolved.
know they don't do that on Freaks and Geeks. They
No.
never do.
And
they
it's
never
like
have.
that just seems
Um,
like something somebody could bear it all out, open the truce.
Yeah.
and even though the person he's so used to his way of doing things now, can't change it.
Right.
And
Well, and he doesn't want the criticism
from other people.
from the other people. Okay, so what's great about the ending of this episode is that, you know, it proves in that final scene once again what we already knew.
Yeah.
That Gordon, Bill, Sam, Neil, in general, they don't give a crap about what people think of them.
Yeah.
And in that essence, it can make somebody like the bully a little jealous.
And intimidated.
And intimidated. Not only, you know, did they brush him off 5 years ago or whatever when he was trying to play with them, but, you know, he sees them now and they are whoever they want to be. They are doing whatever they want to do, liking whatever they want to like, and he feels that he's got to be cool. He's got to be a bully. He's got to be in that
put other people
bubble
down.
that he's kind of created for himself.
Yeah, it's like an armor, like in where like if he he probably doesn't feel comfortable with himself enough to do something like that, and that is interesting.
And it makes me think when I see this episode, it makes me think about how I was, and how yes, sometimes I was embarrassed about my friends or whatever, and I look back and I just think, man. Not that I wasn't happy. I had a great high school experience. I was, you know, I had a lot of fun, but certainly they really just did whatever they wanted to do, you know, whereas I had to, you know, and some of them didn't have siblings. I had siblings in high school with me, so I sort of had to toe a line because I didn't want to embarrass my brothers, you know, or whatever. But still, yeah, I mean, I used to get mad at such stupid things because I was embarrassed or whatever, but really they were just having a good time and being themselves, and who the hell was I, you know, to poop on that?
Well, yeah, some people are critical though. Even then, they'll take pot shots.
Sure,
if like you're out of a certain loop.
Well, sure, and that's what
happens.
Makes it real. I mean, that's what, you know, that's what makes his decision at the end so very real. Did you think he was going to join them?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
Did you think he was going to show up?
I thought, no. Actually, I don't think I did.
It's a nice touch because we see them all out front. All right. We don't see him until they sort of pan over after they're ready.
I didn't think that he was going to join them necessarily.
Right.
But I thought that maybe he would have had a heart chart and like could have talked to Bill or something.
Okay.
I thought that might have been more possible.
Right.
But
okay.
No, but he didn't fully come around, which, like I said, maybe not as satisfying in a certain way.
And Bill knows what he heard.
Bill knows what he heard.
And he knows Bill heard it.
He knows that he knows, so like, there's got to be some sort of thing. Like I see through.
You know,
your whole thing.
It may come up in a future episode, or maybe they were planning on doing something with season 2. I don't know, but it's out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting little nugget, and it makes the bully character more complex.
Yeah,
there's more going
Your
on there.
favorite.
It's interesting. That's very good writing, actually.
Yeah.
Dan. I know you didn't really like it, but
I think part was the only part I just didn't like was the converging didn't happen.
Okay, that's like a little
staple.
Staple.
It's a staple of Freaks and Geeks.
But I actually think that whole bully plot was actually very well written, very believable.
Yes, very well written. However,
yes.
What about the token plot? There was the choking. That was very well written. How about the token? Because personally, I don't actually like it.
I don't know.
It's actually one of the weakest plots, I think, of the whole series.
Well,
and it drags the episode down for me.
The problem I have with that one is I was a little confused as to what their stance on it was, the message, because.
Well, and I think it was purposely ambiguous because I think they didn't talk about the network suits in this particular commentary, but I always imagined that at some point they probably came to Judd and Paul and said, look, you got these kids smoking weed all the time. You should do an episode about how weed isn't good and whatever. And obviously Lindsay had a terrible time with it.
Sure.
I think it's not going to change anything for Ken.
Well, two things confused me actually. Well,
tell me.
All right. Well, first of all, okay, I like the fact that Daniel wants to get better.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with him wanting to smoke less or whatever.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was a bit too much too soon. Like him wanting to give it up completely, I wasn't sure exactly where that came from.
Okay. Here's what I actually liked about that.
Okay.
When you're, 16, 17, and much later in life too, but you make very rash decisions on the dime. Nobody's saying Daniel's going to stick with this decision,
But he's
just like, oh, you know what? This might be
out.
messing up my life. Let's end it and let's not do it.
Okay.
If it lasts a day or a week,
but
okay.
He's extreme.
But he's extreme.
All right.
You know, I've found that a lot.
All right.
In my life.
How about this?
With people.
All right. This is where it might get kind of tricky with how it's handled, because I think it's kind of a debatable topic. Do you think Nick has a problem?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's a common thing that I've heard. Okay, that there seems to be this consensus that marijuana is not addictive, but you can get addicted to anything.
Correct.
So I think he clearly is going through some emotional issues. He's got a problem.
Yes.
So was this an episode trying to say that?
He's certainly using it as a crutch.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Saying that marijuana was bad?
Yeah. For the most part.
Which is weird, because I never entirely got that was what they were going for before. I mean, maybe that, obviously there's some, I guess, leeway there, but it wasn't the strongest, like, it's horrible.
Well, look, no, it wasn't.
She had a bad experience.
But she had a bad experience with it. I mean, the whole Nick thing didn't really get resolved, because it was clear that he does have a problem with it.
And he's still not over her. Well, they did have that line where he's like, oh, maybe I should get straight and clean for her because I like her. And Daniel's like, oh, that never happened as long as you're smoking.
Right.
And I'm like, is that really the problem? I mean, maybe it's contributing, but, like, he was always stoned. So that was the problem. So, like I said, I don't know exactly what the clarity of that message was there. I think
it is, for the most part. Well, okay, I think the message basically is not that, like, weed is horrible, but that A, it's certainly not for everybody.
Sure.
B, shouldn't be pressured into doing it.
No.
And C, it can be something that you can get either addicted to or use too much of or whatever.
So do you not like how that was handled, or is there something else?
I think that of all of the plots that they've done, remember how we always say on this show?
Oh, they're all good.
But we do say that. But but that, boy, what a generic plot that they took.
Different direction.
A way different direction than any other show would have.
That's true.
This is the exact plot that every show would take.
Yeah.
Every show from the 70s on that has an anti-weed show would take this stance.
To be fair,
tell me.
You're probably right about that, but most other shows would be much more overt about it. They would not be subtle. They'd beat the message.
Well,
they would be
I do agree with that, but I think, look, clearly Lindsay had a rotten experience.
Yeah, but
tell me how they were showing weed in a positive light in this episode.
In this one?
Yes, in this particular episode.
I guess not really.
Right.
No.
So,
which is weird.
Which is very weird and a bit contradictory. And look, I get it. It was 2000.
Well, that's what I'm
NBC,
saying. It's the studio pressure.
Of course.
So you couldn't really you probably couldn't do much better with it at the time anyway.
That's correct.
I guess that's part of the problem.
That's correct. But I'm not going to grade it on a curve because of that.
Okay.
That's
fair.
Look, this show has bucked every norm, every trope that we know of. Why was this plotline so generic?
It was pretty
Also, why did Lindsay go babysit at all? Oh, Dad, I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna have Millie babysit.
Hijinks.
Right for the hijinks. This show doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So this is actually my lowest graded episode.
Okay.
And we'll discuss it as we always do.
Okay.
For me, this is a B.
Okay.
Because that story with Bill is so strong and great, and with the bully, so good. That story's like an A, maybe A minus, but I think an A.
Okay.
And I think the weed story's like a C plus.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, because I do think Lindsay's experience was actually kind of realistic.
I'm not saying it's not realistic.
I thought she handled it well. But I'd also say that I really, really liked Bill's storyline.
Bill's storyline is great.
And I liked the bully. So, I don't know. I really liked that a lot. And I didn't think that I didn't think the Lindsay storyline was definitely anywhere near as good, but I didn't think it brought it down that much. I'd probably leave it with like a B+.
The last episode was a B+ with Sam's dad. You think this was in that category? I think this is slightly lower. I admit the Bill story is excellent. But I don't know.
I guess that's mostly what I'm focusing on.
Yeah. And I agree. And that story probably gets more airtime. Probably. I don't know, though. Because like you said, you have the offshoot with Rosso and Ken.
I thought that was funny, though. I kind of like that.
That was fine.
I like that.
When they bring the stoner in, he's like, oh, man, I saw Pink Floyd,
at the laser show, they reference,
That was funny. I'm not saying the humor's not there, but I just think...
Okay, wait. What about the Millie stuff? Do you think the Millie stuff was that bad?
No, but I don't think... It was all dealt with rather generically, and in the real world, we talk all the time about how realistic this show is.
Yeah,
the real world, Millie would have just went by herself.
Yeah, actually, the fact
you can't be around that baby. I'll just go by myself, Lindsay. Don't worry about it. I'll tell them you're sick.
All right. I'll give it to you. The one thing that did bother me from a plot point was, okay, she agreed to babysit this kid. Mm-hmm. What about this other random girl that's just here, her friend?
They never
even acknowledge that she's there, really.
No, and look, I assume it's probably a small town. They probably know Millie.
Yeah, but still, like, it is kind of, you're right. All right, fine.
I think a B is appropriate for this episode.
It is a good episode.
But we can admit that the Bill storyline is like an A.
I would say, I thought it was amazing. Leslie Mann was here.
Leslie Mann was great. Everything with the Bill story. Great. Everything else subpar.
The Lindsay stuff was like okay.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine, but
Freaks and Geeks you won.
Freaks and Geeks is not fine. Freaks and Geeks is outstanding, great.
Except when it's not.
Not, which I've told you sometimes it is.
Well, you did say that there might be some, kind of lower ones in here.
Yes.
So could it get worse from here? Am I going to ever hate one? We got a couple more.
I don't know if any of them gets lower than a B for me, but we'll talk about it. I mean,
we will.
Yeah. I think the Ben Stiller one is either the next one or the one after.
You do bring that one up a lot as not being that great.
It just was a shoehorned in cameo.
But Ben Stiller.
Hot off of probably Zoolander or Meet the Parents at the time. Anyway, all right. So it's over an hour now. We've done it.
Classic.
Classic Freaks and Geeks time. Only a couple of tangents, really. A couple of personal stories. A couple of Doctor Who moments.
It's all related, though.
But it's all related to Freaks and Geeks, as always. So, but yes, this is the last one aired on NBC. So next week we will see one that did not get aired for months and months after the fact.
Wow.
So hopefully there's not anything too important that a person would have missed when they... I don't know what NBC was doing with the show. I really don't.
Like I said,
Firefly again. Yeah, Firefly again.
Don't get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for watching. We've got, I think, 5 of these left, maybe. And then come 2021, we have another show to tackle, completely new to both of us, one that we have not seen. And you saw a couple of scenes or an episode, but I have not seen one frame. So it'll be interesting. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.